Hi, my name is Thea Strom, and I am a medium and animal communicator and teacher of all things woo. Actually, not all things woo, just a few things woo. I teach mediumship, animal communication, psychic development, and I also teach readers how to build confidence and self-esteem and trust in their own abilities in order to do even better readings. Today, I wanted to share a little bit about my own journey of development and how I came into this work and how it all began. So when I was growing up, I was always very interested in anything to do with the world of woo. So I was always interested in psychics, mediums, fairies, witches, anything to do with that sort of thing. So I was always free to explore that sort of thing too. And I was always very sensitive as a kid, very sensitive to other people's emotions and energy and that sort of thing. I didn't really think that I myself was sensitive enough or intuitive enough to be psychic or medium or any of that, but I did definitely feel sensitive to other people's energy. I didn't realize how sensitive I myself was until my late teens, when I started to develop symptoms of bipolar disorder, type 2 rapid cycling. And so let me explain. So what had happened is that I have an older brother who is a drug addict. And growing up, I was steeping in that energy for years and being a very sensitive person, very empathic. I was absorbing a lot of that energy, and I didn't realize I was doing that and didn't have any way of releasing that. And so that eventually then manifested as bipolar disorder symptoms in myself. And so I was diagnosed, and so I was on medications for about a year. During that time, I remember I did go to a few psychics, and both of them said they didn't think I had bipolar disorder. They thought I was just very sensitive. And at the time, what I thought they meant was sensitive in the way of being overreactive to things in life, like overreacting to anything. And so I didn't really realize that they meant sensitive in the way of feeling other people's emotions and feeling other people's energy as if it was my own. And so looking back on that, I do wonder what my path would have been like had I realized really kind of what they meant by sensitive. But anywho, I kind of felt really bad about it because then I was like, oh, I guess I'm just too sensitive and I should kind of get thicker skin or something. So I was on meds for about a year. I realized that that wasn't working out for me personally. And so I decided to go off my meds and approach it from a bit more of a holistic perspective. And so I did a few different things. I didn't just start meditating and somehow cured my bipolar disorder. That is not how it works. I did do a lot of things like cognitive behavioral therapy, other things like drastically reduced stress in my life. I physically removed myself from certain people in my life. Those were all super helpful. But I also did start doing things like taking meditation much more seriously, learned a bit more about how to discern between my own energy and other people's energy. That's when I started to have some strange experiences of random spirits visiting me. And I know that some of you are thinking, well, she went off her meds and then she started seeing spirits. I think there's maybe a connection here. I just want to clarify for those of you who are thinking this way, I don't have any of the symptoms of bipolar disorder anymore. I'm not really saying that I had bipolar disorder or that I didn't have bipolar disorder. I know that I had the symptoms of it and I definitely was diagnosed and was on medications for it. But I know that I don't have the symptoms anymore. I really can't really say either way what happened, but this is kind of my understanding of it. And I also just want to say I'm always very encouraging of people to get professional help should they be experiencing strange symptoms, whether that be therapy or help through medicines, that sort of thing. But also it might be an idea to also include kind of a more holistic approach to it, of also taking care of your energy and taking care of kind of yourself generally in your mental state through things like meditation. and being aware of the way in which energy can also affect us. Okay, that's my disclaimer. Okay, so I started having strange experiences of random spirits visiting me. During that time, I was also exploring a bit more with reading cards, so reading oracle cards, that sort of thing, taking a bit more interest in psychic development. But when I then experienced having these random spirits visiting me, that's when I decided, well, maybe I should take a class in mediumship, because apparently spirits are coming to visit me, so maybe that's a good idea. So I did go take a few classes and started practicing, and really that's when the ball started rolling for me in terms of my own development. So I started off with mediumship development and then also psychic development alongside that, and then through those things I then came into animal communication and realized how natural that was for me. And then from there, it just kind of really snowballed. I took classes for years, practiced for years, and then also started doing this professionally as well. I think it's important to note that everybody has their own path towards development. I never really, despite being very interested in the woo world, I didn't actually ever experience seeing spirits when I was little, at least not that I can remember. I didn't actually experience knowing things without knowing how I knew them. Like, I didn't ever think that I myself was actually psychic or had any sort of mediumship abilities until after I was diagnosed and after I kind of had all these strange experiences. So even if I was very interested in it, I didn't think I myself was that way. So my story was not the typical sort of seeing things when you're little and then that somehow just kind of blossoming. It was a bit more of this sort of roundabout way to getting to my abilities, but everybody has their own path towards it. Some people do develop it when they're little, or they're aware of it when they're little. For some people that shuts down and then it kind of opens up again when they're older. Some people don't really come into it until they're much older, and it's just coming out of this desire to learn, and they may not have ever felt they themselves were psychic before. So everybody has their own unique path towards development, and it's always like the perfect way for everybody to develop, because your own experiences really do help inform your work and help you help the perfect people for you. And I just thought I'd share a little bit about my own experience there, especially because mine is kind of connected to this idea of mental health. If you yourself have struggled a lot with sort of mental health throughout the years, but you also have felt like you are intuitive in some way as well, it might be helpful to approach it from those different perspectives of getting some official help through therapy and that sort of thing, of course, but also then focusing on the energetic aspect of it and learning how to discern between your own energy and other people's energy, and learning more about boundaries and that sort of thing. Those are all super helpful and can really help hone your abilities, but also to the point where it's not a problem for you anymore, where you're feeling like crap all the time because of them, but where you're able to control your abilities. I'd love for you to share if you have kind of a similar experience of being very empathic and kind of thinking that you're crazy because of it. If you want to share, I'd love to hear in the comments below. What are some ways in which you navigated that, if at all yet? And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.